Hey everyone! Today I'm drawing the Kpop Demon Hunter girls in a cute anime style, using Clip Studio Paint. I had so much fun with this piece, and in the time-lapse, I'll take you through the entire process, from the rough sketch all the way to the final sparkly details. If you're curious about how I build an illustration step by step, or if you just enjoy fanart with a K-pop twist, then stick around. For this artwork, I use a 3840 by 2160 pixel canvas. The tools I use the most are the pencil to sketch in a dark blue color, so I can later easily tell where I have already inked or not. The brushes I use are the default Clip Studio Paint brushes. For the sketch, I mainly use the real pencil and also the darker pencil for finer details. When inking, I usually pick the turnip pen or the G pen if I want sharper ends. I always like to start with a loose sketch, and since this artwork features 3 characters, I sketch them all together first. That way I can figure out their poses, proportions, and how they'll interact in the composition. It's kind of like arranging a group photo. I want each of them to stand out individually, but also like they belong as a part of the same team. At this stage, I'm not worried about clean lines or accuracy. It's more about capturing the energy and making sure Rumi, Mira, and Zoey feel balanced on the canvas. Their personalities are already starting to show, even with just these quick strokes. As you can tell, I based my sketch on one of the most striking poses and images in the movie. It comes out in the first minutes. Once the sketch looks solid, I lower the opacity and move on to inking. I use a crisp pen brush in Clip Studio Paint, which lets me get smooth, confident lines. I try to vary the line weight a little, thicker outlines for the outer edges, thinner lines for small details, so the characters don't look too flat. Inking 3 characters back to back takes some patience, but it's also satisfying because the artwork really starts to take shape here. The messy sketch becomes polished, and you can finally see all the designs clearly. You might be wondering, why did I only do one of Mira's eyes? And then I went to Zoey. I did this illustration in 3 parts. For the first one, I started the sketch offline and then did all of Rumi's inking. Then I just started to do Mira's eye. Then I went on stream on a different day and just completely forgot where I was at. So I just went ahead and started doing the Lineart for Zoey. Anyways, in this case, the order of the Lineart does not matter that much, as long as it's all done with the same style and care. By the way, have you seen the movie? It's excellent. If you have not, you should. 100% recommended. I didn't know I was going to enjoy it so much because I'm not the biggest K-pop fan. I know some girl groups like Blackpink and I know BTS and such, but it's not what I listen to every day. But I was so wrong. The movie is really fun even if you do not consume K-pop on a daily basis. And it also has a lot of winks to older animation. I remember Sailor Moon with its exaggerated faces and expressions. And I don't know, it's just so fun. It's very casual and fun, and the music is really good. I love listening to Golden. I think that's my favorite, and even though a lot of people do not like it that much because it's an earworm and it can get stuck in your head forever, I do enjoy the Saja Boys song, the first one, Soda Pop. Hey, by the way, let me know in the comments if you would like me to draw the Saja Boys too. Okay, at this point in the time-lapse, we're almost done with the Lineart. I'm basically just finishing with the weapons, and then we're gonna go and do accessories and little details. For some of this stuff, I didn't even do a sketch like the earrings, so it's completely fine to miss something when you're sketching. You can add it on a later stage. And we can finally remove the sketch. Now we're ready to color. Let's start with Rumi, the first of the 3 demon hunters I'm illustrating. She's often considered the face of the group, the one fans instantly recognize. In many ways, Rumi embodies the core aesthetic of K-pop demon hunters, a fusion of fierce warrior energy with the polished style of a K-pop idol. For her base colors, I begin with softer tones for her skin and then build up her outfit, which is one of the most striking designs in the movie. As I vlog her outfit, I can really appreciate how the artist who created her made every part of her silhouette readable from a distance. That's important in both animation and illustration, because you can immediately tell it's her even in a fast-moving action scene. Rumi's hair is another defining trait. It's bold, flowing, and highlighted with streaks that catch the light dramatically. As I shade and highlight her hair, I think about how it reflects her personality. Determined, charismatic, and maybe just a little bit rebellious. They wanted something that carried both idol glamour and warrior practicality. Fans quickly picked up on it too. Rumi's hair became one of the most cosplayed features after the movie dropped on Netflix. And speaking about Netflix, K-pop Demon Hunters had a massive breakout when it premiered. Within just the first week, it was one of the platform's top 10 most watched movies, and Rumi was at the center of that success. She became a fan favorite not only for her looks, but for her narrative arc. She's portrayed as a strong, confident leader type, but the writing gave her plenty of vulnerable moments too, which really resonated with audiences. She's just a whole package. As you can see here, one of the last parts I shade and highlight is her jacket. I like to do the base color first, then do a rough, very flat shadow color, and then do some darker shading details, and then a big shading soft brush over everything. Also, to soften and blend some of the line art, I like to change its color to a darker shade of an adjacent color. Like for the yellow jacket, I'll do a dark orange for the line art. For the skin, I'll do a deep red. Now let's move on to Mira, the second demon hunter I worked on. I start with her base color, similar skin tone that I just picked from Rumi. I also picked the skirt color from Rumi's jacket, the yellow, and a bright pink for the hair. Mira's outfit balances nicely with her personality. She seems more serious and harsh and punk, but has a more femme silhouette in the intro sequence, being the only one who is wearing a skirt and a long flowing hair of the three. Her hair is especially fun to render. Mira's long sweeping hair contrasts nicely with Rumi's braid. I picked a purple shadow for Mira's hair and painted a harsh flat color behind her head and behind her body. I like to soften the edges of the shadows with the airbrush tool in a highlight mode. I usually pick a pink or a little bit of an orange color on the lighter side, so it ends up lighting everything up. On the screen you can see the settings of this tool in case you'd like to replicate and try it for yourself. Don't forget to change the blending mode. One thing that I like about Mira is that she has a deep voice, and I think I relate to that. As you can hear, my voice is not especially high-pitched, so I appreciate having a strong, funny, and relatable character who also happens to be a K-pop star, all while having a unique deep voice. At this point in the time-lapse, we're almost finished. I'm changing the line art colors in some parts. I also noticed the boots look very flat, so I added some shadow and highlight. I noticed there's some details missing here and there, so I just added them. I'm really liking how this is looking by now. We have basically finished coloring Mira. And now we come to Zoey, the last of the three demon hunters I worked on this illustration. She is the energetic wild card who keeps things unpredictable and exciting. Zoey's hair is another defining feature. I add layers of shadows and highlights to really bring out the volume and energy in an otherwise simple hairstyle. Zoey quickly rose to become a fan favorite, especially with younger audiences. Her humor, bold personality, and rebellious streak make her incredibly relatable. As I add highlights and final touches to Zoey in this piece, I'm struck by how well she completes the trio. Without her, the group might risk feeling too serious. With her, the team has a vibrant balance, strength, heart, and energy all working together. And that's exactly why Zoey stood out as such an essential part of K-pop Demon Hunter's success. She didn't just add flair, she added soul. Regarding coloring, I actually think Zoey's hair was the harder to color, since she has a very dark tone. We have to play around with reflections to make it pop, but not so much as to make the hair a different color altogether. And out of all three of them, in this scene, she has a more distinct outfit, more on the sporty side of fashion. You can see that yellow is the color that brings all the girls together, and later with different outfits, it's the golden. We add the finishing touches for Zoey's shoes and pants, and little hanging belt. So then we can work on the last part of our coloring, the magical weapons. I try to reflect the mystic material with a very iridescent mix of purples and pinks and cyan. This is a part where we can experiment and mix and repaint until we feel it looks good, kind of like crystals or precious stones. I'm liking how it looks, but I think it will look better if we did the same mixing of colors on the line art. We just pick a few more saturated tones so they don't blend with the background. The weapons also have some gold tones. It's easy to render in this style. You just need to do some darker golden brown very close to some very light yellow, almost white reflections. At this point I notice Rumi's hair looks a bit flat, so I add some details and highlights to her braid. With the characters and weapons done, I move on to the background. I draw a big block in a complementary blue color to make the characters pop. Then I add some glow to the weapons to emphasize the magical quality and start adding some faint sparkles in the background and some very shining white sparkles on the foreground. At this point, you can see how I'm playing with the blending of a whole layer. I use a textured brush in pink to cover the entire canvas, then change blending modes until it looks cool. This is also an experimental phase. I like to play around with different layers and blending modes to get something that unifies the whole piece, but also makes it look nice. I also like to duplicate the line art and change its colors in a gradient, then play with the blending mode too. I noticed the eyes looked a bit dull, so I add a bit of a highlight on the bottom, add Mira's graphic on her t-shirt, and then add even more sparkles at the end. These finishing touches give the artwork that polished, lively energy that makes it shine. Look at all those pretty sparkles. And that's the finished piece, my Kpop Demon Hunters fanart in a cute anime style, drawn entirely in Clip Studio Paint. This was such a fun project, and I love bringing Rumi, Mira and Zoey to life step by step. I also like doing art challenges, like this one, where I did a drawing for each and every one of the 151 first gen Pokemon from memory. Bye bye, see you there!